Hi there, and welcome to this video in which we're looking at an application to count the occurrences of an element within a array. So this is quite a common kata that we might come across. So first of all, in order to start the project, we need to bundle init. So we're in a very good Visual Studio system here. So bundle init, and we've made our gem file. We then use our testing system, rspec, and create those files. Now we go into our spec file and we create a test file, so we can do that. Touch count occurrences spec.b. So we now have that document, and we can start to make our tests for this now. So we're going to use the spec helper, which effectively makes smooth running of our spec. And also we're going to require count occurrences, which is the file we will test. So we'll create that in a moment. Now probably best to create it now, because we can then actually use some testing. So count, we don't want that in our, we want outside of our spec file, actually in a lib file. So we're going to make a lib file here, lib, and we're going to keep in here our file called count occurrences.rb. So we're now going to complete our test file here, and the first test for this, which is to count the occurrences of the highest the element, to count the times an element with the most occurrences happens in an array. So describe count occurrences, do, and end. We only just use this as a method, so it's not only going to be not describing a class here. When the array is empty, return 0. So actually this is a really nice simple way to start our test. So result count occurrences with nothing being inputted, and we expect result to equal 0. Now this will of course fail because we haven't, well, firstly because we're not in the correct space, but it fails because we haven't really made our count occurrences method. So we do need to start off by creating our count occurrences method. So def count occurrences input array, and we're going to return 0 if input array dot empty, and that will pass our first test. So that's good. Now we can get a bit more information if we change this to format documentation, because that helps us to see the results in more detail. So we can see our test as well. Okay, well, we've actually made our first test, but it's not really giving us much more clarity on what exactly we're wanting to do here. Of course, we're counting the occurrences um, of the most occurring element in an array. So this is just really showing it when it's 0. Let's try another edge case. When the element in the array returns 1, when there is one element in the array returns 1. So another edge case. Edge case, what we mean here is that it's not really the meat of the application, but it is something that could occur. So we do need to take account of it, and we expect the result to equal 1. So again here, with this edge case, we take account of this in our actual lib, in our file itself, by actually returning 1 if input array dot size is equal to 1. So that allows us to pass this second test. However, that's not really getting into the meat of what this application is doing. So let's actually think about exactly what we want to do here. So it returns, hopefully we're getting more clarity now, the count of the element with the most occurrences. So this is a nice kind of simple statement of what we want our application to do. Result equals count occurrences. Now we can input a series of numbers here, and we're going to expect a sensible response, which of course in this case is that this one, -1, is going to be the most occurring. So we're going to expect the result to equal 3. So expect result to equal 3. Now this is of course because the count of the element with the most occurrences is 1, 2, 3. This is the element with the most occurrences, so the count of it is 3. Right, now this fails, of course, because we've only been taking account of our edge cases. So this is a good fail, and we're getting a nil result. Now, in order to pass this test, we need to start to actually count each of the occurrences of each element. So we need to create a hash. So we start by creating a hash, and we input array dot each do, and we create the current number, and we assign if hash current, if there is a number in there, hash current plus equals 1. If there's not a number there, then hash current equals 1. So if we haven't seen that number before, we assign it to 1. Otherwise, we will create an entry for it. Now, we count the amount of occurrences of each number by using hash.values.max. So let's see if this passes now. That does pass. Now, another way of avoiding this slightly convoluted if statement is to do hash.new 0. Now that ensures that no result, and it gives us gives us a nil return. So let's test that now. We find that that passes. This is a lot neater way of creating our new hash, because it actually assigns 0 as a first result. So none of our hash currents will equal nil. They're just set at 0. So hopefully this has been a helpful session to really go into the counter-occurrences function and how we can count the, well, as our spec says, return the count of the element with the most occurrences. I look forward to our next session soon.